On the night of September 14th, at approximately 11:30 p.m., a man walked through the emergency room doors of St. Catherine's Hospital in Marseille, France. He was barefoot, he was soaking wet, and he had absolutely no idea who he was. The triage nurse asked him his name. He stared at her. She asked again in French. He stared at her. She tried English. Nothing. She tried Arabic, Spanish, and Mandarin. Nothing. The man opened his mouth and spoke, but the words that came out belonged to no language the nurse had ever heard. She called her supervisor. Her supervisor called a doctor. The doctor called the police. And within 6 hours, the man with no name, no memory, and no past became the most baffling case in the history of that hospital. His physical examination revealed a male approximately 35 to 40 years old, 6 feet tall, no visible tattoos, no surgical scars, no dental work that matched any national registry. His fingerprints were run through Interpol, the FBI database, Europol, and 47 national law enforcement systems. 0 matches. His photograph was distributed to missing persons agencies in 190 countries. 0 matches. He carried nothing. No wallet, no phone, no keys, no identification of any kind. His clothes had no labels, no brand markings. The fabric was a cotton blend available in virtually every country on Earth. There was only one item found on him: a folded piece of paper in his left pocket. On it was written a sequence of numbers, 14 digits, no spaces, no dashes. Nobody could determine what the numbers meant. The hospital assigned him a temporary identity. They called him Patient X. For the first 3 days, Patient X did not speak. He sat on the edge of his hospital bed and stared at the wall. He ate when food was placed in front of him. He drank when water was offered. But he initiated nothing. On the 4th day, he began to speak again. But here is where the story becomes truly strange. Linguistics experts from the University of Lyon were brought in to analyze his speech. They recorded 11 hours of Patient X speaking. The initial assessment was that he was speaking a combination of at least 3 languages, but none of them could be fully identified. Professor Marcel Devereux, the lead linguist, said in his report, "The phonetic structure contains elements that resemble archaic Slavic root words, combined with tonal patterns found in certain Southeast Asian dialects, and a grammatical framework that does not correspond to any documented language, living or dead." In simpler terms, this man was speaking a language that should not exist. The story made local news first, then national, then international. Within 2 weeks, Patient X was the subject of articles in 14 countries. Theories began to emerge: time traveler, government experiment, something not entirely human. The hospital's psychiatry department conducted extensive testing. His cognitive functions were normal. His IQ tested at 127, which is above average. He could solve complex mathematical problems. He could play chess at an advanced level. But he could not tell you his name. He could not recognize any city, any landmark, any flag of any nation when shown photographs. He looked at a map of the world and pointed to nothing. In the 3rd week, investigators made a discovery. The 14-digit number found in his pocket was traced to a decommissioned Swiss bank account. The account had been opened in 1989. It had been closed in 2004. During its active years, the account had processed over $47 million in transactions. The account holder's name was listed as a series of initials. No full name. no address. No identification documents were on file. The Swiss bank refused to release further details, citing their secrecy laws. The investigation hit a wall. But patient X was changing. In the second month, he began drawing. He drew the same image over and over. A building, tall, narrow, with a red door. Behind the building, mountains. Beside the building, water. The drawings were detailed. The perspective was precise. This was not random scribbling. This was a real place, drawn from real memory. Investigators used the drawings to search architectural databases across Europe. They found a match in month 4. A narrow building with a red door in a small coastal village in Montenegro called Kotor. A team was sent to the village. They found the building. The red door was there, exactly as patient X had drawn it. But the building had been abandoned for over a decade. The neighbors said a man had lived there alone for several years. He kept to himself. He paid rent in cash. He had no visitors. And then one day, he was gone. No forwarding address. No explanation. Nothing left behind except an empty apartment. The landlord's description of the former tenant matched patient X exactly. But here is the detail that made investigators stop breathing. The landlord said the tenant had moved in 2005. The Swiss bank account had been closed in 2004. Whatever patient X had been before that bank account closed, he had become someone else after. And whoever that someone else was, he had chosen to disappear completely. By month 6, patient X began to recover fragments of memory. Not personal memories, not names or faces. Sounds. He described the sound of a machine he called a printer that never stops. He described the sound of a door that locked from the outside. He described the sound of men speaking in whispers in a room with no windows. The psychiatrist noted that these were not the memories of a civilian. Interpol quietly upgraded the case. In month 9, something happened that the hospital never made public. A man arrived at St. Catherine's Hospital and asked to see patient X. He presented credentials identifying him as a representative of a European intelligence agency. He was allowed a supervised visit. He sat with patient X for 47 minutes. Patient X showed no sign of recognition. But as the man stood to leave, patient X said one word: a name. The name has never been made public. What is known is that within 72 hours of that visit, patient X was transferred to a secure medical facility. His case file at St. Catherine's was sealed. The hospital was instructed to make no further public statements. Professor Devereaux, the linguist, was contacted by phone and told that his research into patient X's language would not be published. When he asked why, the line went silent. Patient X was never seen in public again. No official statement was ever made about his identity. No official statement was ever made about the Swiss bank account. The 14-digit number found in his pocket has never been explained. No official statement was ever made about the building with the red door. All that remains is a man who walked into a hospital with nothing. No name, no memory, no past. And a world that spent 9 months trying to find out who he was. Only to discover that someone, somewhere, had spent years making sure no one ever could. If this story kept you watching until the end, subscribe to Ashes of Trust.